Currently the morning of the 20th of July 2021 in the Western Pacific, and we got a lot to talk about in this update. From Cempaka to Infa, also known as Fabian in the Philippines. I'm going to get to this in just a moment. First, I want to touch on Cempaka because this storm system has absolutely been blown up the last few hours. Defined eye right there, center of circulation just offshore, and we are seeing that banding push into Hong Kong. On top of that, winds right now are being estimated 120 gusting to 150 kilometers per hour. That is a Category 1 storm system. You can see here on microwave imagery, boy, it is a slow mover, but look at that defined center of circulation right there towards the northeast of Hainan, west of Hong Kong, and watch that eye wrap right up. Within that core, that's where you're probably going to be seeing those winds at 120 kilometers per hour. And that wouldn't surprise me at all. This is a rapidly intensifying storm system. And that's actually problematic because when you get a storm strengthening as it comes on shore, that means we're going to be seeing some of that worst of the weather on the right side. I think we could be seeing those sustained winds at 120 plus. What you get is some of these mesovorticities spinning up, especially with a lot of the upward rising vertical motion with those developing thunderstorms, which means probably going to be looking at some tornadic activity in these bands on the right side of this coming on shore, and that includes in and around the Hong Kong area. So, you know, a very dangerous storm system as it continues to rapidly intensify. Since it's such a slow mover too, it's going to be a big rainfall threat out across Guangdong province, some areas as much as 200-300 millimeters. But watch this, it comes back, it loops around and it heads back out towards the east. This is going to be a tricky storm. What we're going to be looking at is kind of a Fujiwara effect with this interacting with Infa, which at this point is going to be right about here. They might gravitate towards each other. Typically what happens when two big storms get near each other, the bigger one sucks in the smaller one, and since Infa is kind of a pretty massive system, it might start to pull in Cempaka from the west here, and you can see all the agencies pretty much agree on kind of that similar track with this loop around and taking its sweet time, dropping a copious amount of rainfall up and over 300 millimeters for some areas. So for sure going to be seeing some significant flooding here across Guangdong province. All right, let's take a look at that bigger picture now. Let's get into the update on Infa, also known as Fabian, its influence across the Philippines and, of course, into Okinawa. Key thing I want you to take away, especially for people new to the island in Okinawa, I'm not trying to hype this up. I just want you guys to be prepared. It's always smart to be prepared, especially with a storm system like this, which the track probably going to be going just south of the island, but you might look at that center line and think, we're good. What are you talking about? The center line is going to be staying offshore. There is that banding, and it is going to bring some messy weather. If you've been around on the island for a while, you know that Okinawa is built for this stuff, but prepare, make sure everything is secure around your home and stay inside as this storm passes by. Prepare, don't panic. That is always the thing. I try not to come across like I'm hyping things up. I always try to give you the facts. Now, if you see me panicked or something like that, I think there's only been a few times I was like that. Hainan back in 2013 was one time where I was just absolutely panicking on screen. This is not that type of scenario, but it is still a pretty potent storm system. Continuing to wrap up, we're seeing plenty of dry air entrainment coming in from the south and pushing into that center of circulation, which I think is keeping this still at severe tropical storm intensity at this time. But if this convection continues to flare up and wrap around that center, this for sure is going to be gaining just enough intensity to become a typhoon, maybe a Cat 1 to Cat 2, as it best is just south of Okinawa, but winds right now 102 to 130 kilometers per hour, according to the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. I see some people who do their own estimations on Dvorak analysis, and I could see how you could think this is a typhoon at this point, but I always go off what the agencies are saying here. And there's that track. Here's a good question. Somebody asked me earlier, why does JTWC show the 50 knot line right there? That's the 30 knots, 35 knots, and that's typhoon strength rate in here. 50 knots is what the U.S. military uses to set their T-cores and basically all their warnings and things like that. So with that 50 knot right on the edge of Okinawa, it allows them to go through the T-core warnings. As of making this on Tuesday morning, I believe Okinawa is under T-core 2. Probably going to go to a T-core 1 here in the very near future. I think that's smart. Even if they don't see those sustained winds at 50 knots, they're probably going to be looking at least a tropical storm strength, which can surprise people when you get a full-fledged tropical storm type conditions. Miyako-jima for sure is going to take the brunt of this as it tracks towards the west and eventually north of Ishigaki and even into Taipei on top of that. I'll talk more about them the closer we get to potential impacts there. But for Okinawa Honto from the Japan Meteorological Agency, this is mostly for the southern portion of the island. We're going to be seeing closer to the center of circulations, winds of 126 kilometers per hour. Waves could be as much as 15 to 20 feet. So really, especially in some of those cliff faces out there, there's going to be some massive surf and rain totals about 1 to 200 millimeters. This is by Wednesday morning when I believe the highest of winds are going to be kicking in out here. And you get that banding coming on shore across southeastern portions of the island. The east coast for sure will be windier than the west coast, but still many of you, especially south of the Chantan area around Kadena, that's for sure we're going to see the higher the gust. It will be a little bit less in northern portions of the island, but those rain bands as they wrap around really going to be kicking up those winds and of course blinding rains, things like that. Stuff you don't want to be outside in as this pushes on by before this wobbles and starts to push closer to Miyako-jima. And you can see that here with the ECMWF through Friday, tracking just south of Okinawa and then eventually passing right over. There you go. Miyako-jima could be getting actually a stadium effect. That's where videographer, storm chaser James Reynolds is right now, by the way. Wherever he is, he's, if you know Jim Cantori, the Weather Channel, he's the Western Pacific's Jim Cantori. If he shows up in front of your house, that's no good. That's bad juju right there. Miyako-jima, that's where he's at. So, yeah, that's where we're probably going to see some of the worst of the weather. Okinawa will be impacted here. Watching that storm for Taipei, but for Okinawa, hunkered down. I've been getting some good photos from a few of you. There's another one. Yeah, you got those thunder clouds already building in, but as of making this update, some of the outer rain bands are even starting to push in as well. All right, so here's those rain bands with that. Speaking of rain bands, like I said, a long update today. I want one other thing to talk about. It's the monsoonal flow that is flowing in around both of these storms from Cempaka to Infa across the Philippines and the west coast of the Philippines. You're going to be looking at some areas 1 to 200 millimeters of rainfall over the next few days. It's definitely a threat of flooding in western Luzon. You need a little bit of rain in central Luzon, but it's going to be really piling up there from Mindoro all the way down to western areas of Visayas as well, and including there to Manila, some gusty conditions. You can see that overall moisture flow just kicking in around both of these. So if you're in the west coast of the Philippines, I've been saying this for a few days now, flood threat still is real, not only because of short time heavy showers, but the persistency of it. So maybe you're not seeing it just yet, but if we continue in this course over the next few days, the rain totals are going to add up, the ground will get saturated, and of course significant flooding could be taking place. All right, hey, by the way, I've been saying a few different agencies here, and some people have actually been asking about this. There's multiple agencies from Pagasa, which names their own storms. That's why we got 2 names on INFA. JMA, Hong Kong, you know, all these different agencies, they don't agree all the time on what the intensity of the storm systems are. Not only that, but for example, JTWC uses a 1-minute wind scale and JMA uses a 10-minute wind scale. So naturally, the 10-minute wind scale will be a little bit lower than the 1-minute. That's why sometimes the winds and the information might be different from what you are seeing. I typically try to use JMA as they are the official warning agency in the Western Pacific, but Pagasa as well when we're talking about storms near the Philippines. And since we have this storm that is impacting Okinawa with a lot of U.S. military there, I will quite often refer to the Joint Typhoon Warning Center on top of that. So it's complicated, guys. Let's say that. Hey, check out Patreon, link down below. If you guys are thinking about it, at least just check it out. You can flatter me. Thank you very much for everybody who's been donating there. You're all my heroes. We got some new graphics. I was actually just working on it. We got 2 named storm systems here, potential typhoons nearing landfall. So I just don't have a lot of time to build these graphic sets in the new graphic package I got. But financially, you guys are making it possible with all the donations and help. So I can't thank you guys enough. If you watched all the way through this video, let me know. This was a long one and I covered a lot. So if you're still watching, hit me up at a comment down below. Just tell me what your favorite color is or something like that. Let's end on a little of a ease note here and You know, not favorite color. How about your favorite food? Let's relax. We got a lot going on out here. Prepare. Don't panic. Stay safe out there, guys. Thanks for watching.